So last episode, I told you about the 1 year transformation. I told you about the car. I told you about the weight loss, and I told you about the goal to save. But I left something out. I didn't give you the numbers. And there's one thing about numbers, is one thing for sure, is that numbers do not lie. You can't hide behind numbers. Numbers are going to give you the 100% truth at all times. You know what I mean? They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your excuses. They don't lie. And they definitely don't soften the blow. So let's go ahead and get into it. So today I'm giving you all of my numbers, my exact weight, my exact financial picture, no rounding up, no rounding down, the real numbers I'm starting this journey with. Because I'm going to ask you to trust me on this transformation. A year from now, you'll need to see exactly where I started from. So let's get into it. To give you my numbers, I wanted to show you something about how God deals with numbers in scripture. Because a lot of people think faith means being vague about your problems. You know, people use phrases like God's got it, it'll all work out in his timing, and don't worry about the detail. Even worse, right? The one that everyone tends to say, the devil's in the details. So people tend to use that as an excuse to be as vague as possible, to hide their truth and only show their highlights, only talk about their highlights, when in reality they're struggling, right? I'm not doing that here. So in Luke 14:28, Jesus is teaching and he says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Why don't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Jesus is telling his own followers. Jesus is telling his own followers, count the cost, know the numbers. Don't go into something blind and call it faith, because that's not faith, that's denial. Real faith looks at the number on the scale, looks at the number in your bank account and says, I see you, I'm not afraid of you. Because God specializes in turning 30 in a 30-fold, you know, as the church likes to say, right? When you tithe, you return your tithes tenfold, right? But that's another conversation for another time. So today we're counting the cost out loud and on camera. We're going to start with the first number, which is going to be my weight. Current weight currently, well, actually, as of today, my current weight is 284 at time of recording, which is a big difference from this person here to who I am now, right? But we're not going to use that as an excuse to say, oh, well, look how far I've came, because this person right here is going to be the person that's going to look at both of these people and be like, it is extremely possible to achieve your goals. You know, people can say, oh, well, at least I came from here to here. It's not that bad. At least I'm not 600 pounds, you know, but hey, just because you smoke weed and you don't do crack doesn't make a real difference. You know what I mean? It's same thing. You know, it's still something that needs to be solved. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say it. I'm never going to say it again. As I said, right, the number is 284. I'm not going to repeat that number again because I don't have a reason to repeat it again, because that number will not be the same the next time I make a video. You know what I mean? So there's that. Now, as I've stated, the goal is to reach 212 pounds by July of next year, which is not going to be an issue from what I've seen already. If you guys have seen my YouTube shorts, you've seen that I started at 309, extremely depressed, feeling like the world was just horrible. Actually, matter of fact, I might put the short in right here. If you were to die in the next 10 seconds, would you feel that you've accomplished everything you needed to in life? Versus where I am now, right? In my opinion, I'm a completely different person. I feel 1,000 times better. I feel like I look 1,000 times better. The shirt that I'm currently wearing is not a shirt I would have been able to wear when I made that video. So I feel like I'm improving, but obviously the goal is still there. The goal still needs to be achieved. 282 from 309 is still a large amount, but still a long way to go. So let's go ahead and get into it, right? I can't use that I'm at 284 and say, hey, I made an improvement. Now I can start slacking. Now I can give up, because that's not true. The goal is 212. The goal, right? That doesn't mean that's my stopping point either, but that is the goal. That is the assignment. Now here's the number that's harder for me to say, honestly, than the weight. Right now, my total savings is $0. That's zero retirement. That's zero emergency fund. That's zero rainy day fund. That's if I lose my job tomorrow, if a tire breaks, if my car breaks down, those will be debilitating for me, right? And I feel like at this point in time in my life, there's a lot of people who also feel the same way, right? They're one major repair from pretty much losing everything. And to live your life that close to the edge constantly is terrifying. I know because I'm currently doing it. We can go ahead and get into debt. I have a total of $3,200 in collections, give or take, that need to get paid off by the end of this year as well. And I currently have only one credit card because only one place would approve me that has a balance of $335. It's currently $35 over the limit. That has to get paid down to zero to start reporting accurately for credit and hopefully build my credit up as well. Because during this challenge, it's not just about saving money. It's not just about losing weight. It's about building a proper financial starting point. Now that I'm at a point in my life where I'm stable, you know what I mean? I have a pretty nice house. I have a great job that pays my bills. I have other means to be able to make income. I have a wonderful support system from my wife, my children. So I feel like if there was any time to get started, it would be right now, which is why I'm starting now. And I know when I said my total is only $3,200, to some people are like, that's it, right? And there's no shame in that, right? There's no shame in your number being higher than mine. There's no shame in your number being lower than mine, or just being at the exact same amount, okay? Because Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. So as long as you owe a debt, family members, friends, anyone of that nature, in your soul, you kind of feel indebted to that person. I don't know if you guys have ever had that moment where you guys seem like you're only friends with someone because you owe them money, and or they owe you money, so you have to constantly, be around them, so that way when it's time for them to pay up, they can't use that as an excuse to, oh, I don't talk to that person anymore, so I don't have to pay them. I don't personally, luckily, I don't owe anyone directly to me, just, credit cards that went over balance. What else is there? Like a utility, I think, collection or something like that from the old apartment. But don't worry, those will get paid. Probably, if I do the goal correctly, I can get them paid off before the end of the year, while also achieving my other goals. And you guys will be updated on all that as well with my weekly uploads, as you see now. So here is the financial starting point, right? I have $0 in savings. My credit card is currently maxed out with $35 over the limit, and my collections debt is approximately $3,200. In spite of all that, starting this month, I plan on investing $100 per child into a custodial account, as I've stated in the last video. And I'm pretty sure someone watching the video is going to say that doesn't make any sense. You need to take care of your own debts first before you focus on your children's debts, right? You need to focus on yourself before you focus on others. And while I agree with that slightly, Matthew 6:33 does say, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. All things, right? So I'm not seeking my own comfort first. I'm seeking obedience first. I'm seeking my children's future first. And I'm trusting God to meet me in the gap while I rebuild my own foundation at the same time. So as I think back on how I got to this point, right? There's the biggest problem was my belief, right? My belief system, my mindset. I believe that, people like me don't get ahead. People like me just survive. I mean that in both racial, even though I try my best not to use race as an excuse, because it's not an excuse, right? It may give me a weaker starting point, but it is not an excuse for me not to be able to achieve my goals and my dreams. The only person holding you back is yourself. I grew up watching people, though, in survival mode. So to me, it was just kind of molded as like normal, living paycheck to paycheck wasn't just a season. It was kind of just a lifestyle. You get paid on Friday, your check was gone by Monday, and you kind of pick and struggle for those 2 weeks until you get paid again, and continue on with that cycle over and over again, right? So I kind of accepted that that was also going to be my story, because to me it seemed like it was normal, you know? And I believe that's why I didn't check my credit score for over like the last 2 years. It's because the way I grew up, nobody really cared about credit scores. If you couldn't afford something, you just let it go to collections, and in 7 years it'll disappear. But I've realized now that financial literacy is something that must be learned now to be able to be taught to future generations. You can't just continue the cycle of no one taught me, because eventually no one will teach no one, right? You have to become the person to teach the next person. So yeah, in that time in my life, I didn't believe that increase was possible in my life. I believed that what I had was what I had, and it wasn't going to be more than that. But in Romans 12:2, it does say, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I know a lot of people hear that one, but they don't actually break it down and really look at what it's saying, right? So things that seem normal around you are not actually normal behaviors, if it's outside of what was taught in the Bible. If you notice people don't really care about their life, they don't care about others. We live in a society where things are becoming very, very selfish. No one really cares about anyone other than themselves. And if they don't see a benefit in themselves, they tend to not see a benefit for anyone around them. So there's just no point, you know? But I've realized that for anyone to be able to evolve and become a better person, you have to look at the people around you. You have to kind of build your own support system and build a community of people who think like you. So that way, once it's time to become the person that you want to become, you're at a stable point with people. Not that everyone has to have the same starting point, but everyone should have a similar goal in mind, which is just life enrichment. So this is what I'm committing to in front of you. 287 pounds to 212. I'm already at 284, so it's really 284 to 212. And I'll show you the scale every step of the way. As you see on my YouTube shorts, I have a daily upload of my current weight every single morning. Sometimes it's not uploaded in the morning, but it's recorded in the morning. I'm a busy person, so yeah. I'm gonna show you the real plan to tackle that $3,200 debt in collections and get that credit card back under limit, preferably down to zero by the end of the year. I still plan on investing $100 a month every month into my five children's custodial accounts every single month, regardless of what my numbers look like on my own debt. So that's going to drive me to create more money so that way I can focus on them. In every episode, I'm going to keep pulling the beliefs that I've been running in my life quietly in the background, straight up ruining them, destroying them, and replacing them with things that I'm learning now. So this right here is the real starting line, not the vision that I wish I was starting from, but the actual starting line. If hearing any of my numbers made you think about your own, your own scale, your own bank account, your own credit cards, I want you to do something for me. I would like you to write that number down. Just one of them. It doesn't have to be all three. Somewhere private. You don't have to share it. You don't have to talk about it. I just want you to write it down. So that way you stop pretending that the number doesn't exist, or stop pretending that you don't know the number. Because that's where true change starts. And the next episode, I'm going to show you the actual plan, the nutritional framework, the workout structure, the first real steps towards tackling my debt. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And if this episode resonated with you, drop a comment, or if you feel you know anyone that this episode may help or relate to, please share it. I also have a podcast under the same name. I'm working on getting it underneath all platforms, but right now it's definitely on Spotify. So check in there. If you did resonate with this, though, please comment the word counted to let me know that, one, you made it to the end of this video, which I greatly appreciate, and two, that you're on this journey with me. Because there'll be a lot of people watching this journey from the sidelines waiting for the end results, so that way they can say that I cheated or something of that nature. But if you're along the side, if you are alongside with me on this journey, that lets other people know that I didn't cheat. As I say before in all my other videos, I am Jay, and this is my journey. I appreciate you for taking it alongside with me. Peace and God bless.